Alright, so welcome to Tyre. Most games that I play, I go into some detail, and I will here with the early parts of the game, and eventually we quickly get into what's going on. I'm not sure how quickly we're going to get into what's going on in this one, because I haven't even bothered setting up. There's a reason for that. If you look at the allocation, the planning stage for the game turn, which starts things off, first you allocate what you're going to do. We're going to do a bombardment turn because we obviously don't want to end the game this turn. I can't even get my Macedonians to the island, much less anything else. Macedonians are able to construct stuff. Well, what are they allowed to construct? Mole, catapults, and battering ram. Let's start with that. But I don't have my other stuff set up because I don't need to. The strategic movement stage actually allows me to shift things around defensively and offensively. So I'm just leaving my stuff kind of off map, and I may do that through most of the game. However, well, the Tyrians have to show up on the board, but once just because I've got to set them up to even react to the bombardments. At the very least, I have to deal with the catapults and the ships. I don't think I really have to deal with the troops because they're not allowed to fire at the ships on their own until the assault phase comes. Okay. So I get to construct my mole, catapults, battering ram, stuff like that. Let's get to the engineering. Building the mole. So 3731 and 3831. These, hold on. The mole begins the game located from there to 27, 24, 28, 20. Okay. So I'm going to be in these hexes as listed. Let me take these towers off. They actually don't matter either. Just track the mole for now. Eventually I'll have to put them on. So I roll a die on a 4 through 6, I get 1 hex. Alright, so I get lucky, and the mole's moved out 1 hex. Catapults and battering rams, I have to decide which one I want to build. I am allowed to build, what, 1? Yeah. Alright, well, what do I want? Right now I have 4 of each at the beginning of the game. And I don't have to have these on the board. They're probably easier to track if I keep them over here. Let's take a look at what they work as. They all have to go on board ships. The catapults are fairly effective. The battering rams are more effective, but the catapults can be improved by firing at secondary walls. Secondary walls are hard to reach, though. You can see my invasion locations on secondary walls are either behind the booms, in which case I have to wipe out the Tyrian Navy, or, and there's no beaches in here for whatever that matters, or back here where things are really unpleasant. Now there's some kind of nice areas here, but I'm pretty sure that that the Tyrians will cover those with boulders. So those are going to go from 1s to 3s. In fact, this is one of the problems. Beaches are unpleasant. What I really want to do is get a breach, say here, or here, where I have a lot of, where I can land troops without having to worry about the beaches at all. Alright, so I have 4 rams and a decent number of hexes I could ram. Catapults, though, I believe can be fired twice in an assault phase, so they may actually be able to do more damage. I don't know. Let's build ourselves a disruption. Let's build ourselves another catapult. I don't have any ships to put them on anyway. And now, what else are we allowed to build here? Let's go back here. We're allowed to build... Yeah, that's it. Now we go to the Tyrian points. Tyre's going to have 6 points. I can use them on ships, repairing wall hexes. Neither of those are going to be necessary this turn, I believe. Well, it's possible I could get naval reinforcements. Of course, my ships won't be loaded up, so there's not much that can be done with them on the turn that I get them. So this looks like it's a pass turn overall. I do have 4 points I can throw to boulders, though. And for 2 points each, I'm going to drop a couple boulders on the board. Let's get... Normally, sorry about that shakiness there. Somewhere here, they've got a little sheet you can photocopy and write where your boulders go. That's really the only use for that sheet. I figure, why not just drop some of these here. Now note, there is kind of a dangerous area here, so this port is actually at risk. But this is what I view as the most dangerous place. Now that just used up 4 of my engineering points. I have 2 more left. I'm not going to even allocate them because nothing can happen this turn. Now we go to strategic movement. This is the point when I could load stuff up on ships and do stuff. I could move my firing platforms up close so that if I was doing an assault, I could put some archers in there and shoot at the wall there. None of that really matters at this point in the game yet. Hopefully we'll get to something of interest in this first video. We'll see. But it won't happen in this first turn. Now we go to the naval reinforcements, and, well, here's the thing. Alexander might just get something he can use. On a 1 through 3, I get some fleets that I could use. The ABS, I don't know what group that is. Hey, I get lucky. So now I have some more boats here, or some boats here, that are in play. And that means next turn I could do something, but here's the problem. If I do, I'm heavily outnumbered by the Tyrian Navy. I kind of want to wait until I have more boats, but I'm under this time pressure to try to cause some damage. So I've got to think real hard here. Can I afford to send, say, some of these boats out, well, all of the boats out, to engage in trying to wreck the walls at this point in the game? I don't think so, but, well, we'll see. I think I need at least one more fleet. I'm probably waiting until the RSL fleet comes into play. That gives me about parity, and then when the Cypriots come in, I've actually probably got an advantage in fleet total. So I picked a bombardment phase, but I don't want to do anything, right? I don't want to engage my fleets. These are just going to be here, and we can just agree we're not going to do anything because there's going to be a strategic movement to shift stuff between the squadrons. Now, note one thing. As the mole starts to get closer and closer, this channel here gets smaller and smaller. That's a lot of the naval action is going to happen over on these two sides of the island, and as this parts, it becomes tougher for the two players to kind of decide what they're going to do. The Macedonians have a lot of ports on one side or the other, so they could focus their fleet in one place, whereas the Tyrians are going to have to, allocate and spread their fleet out just because they have so many ships to begin with. So if the mole gets tight enough, it may well work out well. Of course, I can always skirt the island from the, that's going to be the west, in order to get ships around. But that takes a long time. This turn doesn't take, there's only 6 movement phases. I'm not going to be able to get my fleet all the way around easily. All right. Lots of chatter, not much happening, right? So now we go to the game turn indication phase, and essentially we just shift to another turn. And that's how things start in Tyre. Not very exciting yet. Just wait until the boats get on the water, though. They're gonna be a cluttered mess. The second turn is approximately as simple as the first, because I know I'm not going to get the RSL fleet, and I don't want to launch an attack. On the other hand, the Tyrians assigned some more of these, and I'm using the discs in order to indicate how much where the boulders are. They allow me to see through. I'm on lunch break, but somebody's asking questions on a bridge line to see how much the initial value was. I didn't like the counters on it. And another option, I had these little tiny counters I could have used as well. There's some little discs in there, but I think these will work fine. Now, I was mistaken. Catapults are the things that can only be used once. Battering rams can be used twice in one single bombardment phase. So I actually built another battering ram this time. I don't want too many battering rams because I don't think it's going to be hard to align my ships for battering rams, whereas catapults can hit at a range, so I can kind of stack them deeper. Not really stack, but I can push them deeper along the line. I, again, don't want to send the ABS fleet out. So the Tyrians have a couple of extra points. They're only allowed to spend 4 on boulders. The other points are on walls or repair, but it doesn't really matter. I didn't have to actually allocate them. And that's all that really happens here. The mole did not advance. Naval units can't shift around in the strategic movement phase. That's something I kind of missed. It doesn't make much difference, but as I'm starting turn 3, and I've gone through the construction of the mole, and let's see, I've got to do the Tyrian construction. This is when repairs would happen, so I'm allowed 2 more of these chips, which I'll just toss, geez, I don't know where. At this point it becomes kind of hard because everything's kind of the same. I'll put 1 on each side here. I've got 2 other points, but I can't use them for anything still. Anyway, at this point I've got to kind of decide where my ships are going to be. And I think the Macedonians had to set up first, so I'll do that and then set up the Tyrian ships. Actually, I could have intervened and struck these as they came on the board on the first turn. Chances are they wouldn't, though. I know where they come on. But now we're on this 3rd turn, and this is when we're guaranteed the RSL fleet. And this is really the first time that I can make an assault. I skipped over the movement to get to the port safely for the Macedonians. That's okay. I don't think the Tyrians could have done anything about that. At this point now, though, I do have to decide whether or not I'm going to launch a real bombardment. And I think I am, because I'll be using the RSL fleet as screen for the ABS unit. I've performed my setup. The ABS fleet's here. And you notice the leaders are the wrong color. That's an issue in the errata. I've set up my catapults. I haven't decided to bring any battering rams. The reason I'm bringing catapults, I think that as I act, I can try to shoot some of these walls, but I don't want to get necessarily... I'm basically saving the battering rams to make an attack along this wall here, I think. And I'm not really prepared to do that yet. Here's the new fleet coming in, and this is what I probably should have done, is set up the ABSs to come in. And here's the problem, and why it was a bad idea that I didn't do that. I think the Tyrian fleet, which is allowed to start in the harbors, I think they could keep attacking the ABSs for the entirety of a round of this. There's no safety in the harbors for the Macedonians. So I lost opportunities on the first 2 turns to basically engage the Allied fleet. that was already present. That kind of disturbs me because I think you can probably wipe them out as they come in piecemeal until Cyprus comes in. It's why I didn't want to launch my fleet. Do I really want to have the catapults even out there right now? Yeah, we'll give them a shot. That may actually reduce some of the effect of this by weakening my overall fleet position. So we're going to open up with the Tyrians being able to go first, and let's see what they do. Let's look at the boom. That improves defensive strength, but I want to attack, so I get to move my ships. That's how the sequence of play goes. See, I really need this, but it's not easy enough to read, so I probably should photocopy this and use that. So we're in and this isn't terribly easy either. We're in the naval bombardment phase, so the Tyrian player gets to move, then we get to melee bombard, and then regroup after all the turns. So the Tyrian player gets to move. We've got a movement of 7 on this. 1, 2, 3 to turn, 4, 5, 6, 7 here, and you see I'll pull the rest of my fleet out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can't go ram speed here. Got to keep things within range. 1, 2, 3 of my leader. 4, 5, 6, 7. Otherwise, my fleet won't be able to move quickly. I'll take the rest of that movement, then start moving and that fleet, and start moving these fleets. And you can see there's a lot of expense to the action that's taking place, you know, in these naval actions, especially if you have to play them out every time, as I think you actually do, rather than just let things pass, because I think, for example, the Tyrians would have had an advantage hitting the ABS. These are naval squadrons after 1 activation for both. Nobody's in range to do anything. Ranges, you slam into them. Already running into problems trying to keep these fleets in command radius, because a ship can't move at all if it's outside of command radius. I'm just kind of fudging it right now, but I got to be real careful, because a ship isn't even allowed to move if it's not in command radius, which makes it a sitting target basically. I've moved the Macedonians here. Now I'm on the Tyrian movement. I've tried to keep away so that they can't strike me yet. If they want to engage, they can. They may not wish to. They may wish to try to provide a screen against the catapults. The problem is, right now the Tyrians have the numerical advantage, and this may be the time that they want to hit. On the other hand, they may want to wait until the mole gets closer so that they can protect their fire ship it comes in. There's a lot of long-term decisions as to how to use your resources in this game to the best effect. So if you have your fire ship and that's all you have, well, you can use it to slam into one Macedonian ship and take that out. But that's not what you want it for. You want it to take these suckers out and take them out of play. But you can't do that if you've lost too many ships. And there's our positioning after 2. We've got 1 Tyrian squadron coming up into place here. And the other one kind of forming up here. It's a tough situation because basically the Macedonians would be perfectly happy, I think, not engaging at this point. But if they do engage, they have these catapult ships that maybe they want to slide around here. It looks like they're going to be facing the entire Tyrian fleet, though. It's just a matter of how long will it take for the Tyrians to get into position. The Macedonians may be well happy to wait this out. It's harder to attack. Basically, if the Tyrians come forward, they're exposing themselves to attacks by the Macedonians. Whoever gets the first swing in has the advantage, which is one reason why maybe the Tyrians didn't want to come forward, and why maybe they don't want to come forward next time, and why the Macedonians maybe want to wait, well, I think do want to wait, until they can get the Cypriot fleet into play. Of course, they're on a time limit. The Tyrians are not. The Tyrians are perfectly happy with this. They're throwing down rocks on the water, on the beaches to prevent landings. As long as they don't have to repair walls, they're doing okay, I guess. It may not be the safest time to be gaming. I'm a little ill and I've spilled soup all over myself because I get very clumsy when I'm ill. I moved my teacup though. That'll help. All right. So I'm on the Tyrian phase. And I notice that it looks like these squadrons have gotten within range that I can go 1, 2, 3 to turn, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're in range that I can start striking them with some rams. And I'm going to go about it. I think that it was a mistake by them to come in there. So let's see what we can do. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm not going to be able to hit there, but I can hit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I've struck. I am unfortunately hitting a trireme with a God knows what. Looks like a quinquireme. So we look, attacker's a quinquireme, we're hitting a trireme. I need a 5 or a 6 for a chance at a big result. I get it. I roll again on a 1 through 3, it's pinned. 4, 5, it's damaged. 6, it's sunk. 2, I have pinned it. And I put a little pinned marker here. And I get an exhausted marker here. And yeah, you can see, this is kind of why I'm saying this is an obnoxious system. Maybe my tolerance for these has gone up recently, though. But when I first played it, I know that it really kind of got to me in a way that things like Great Battles of History or now Flying Colors aren't so much getting to me. So maybe, I have a little bit more of an acceptance of these games. All right, let's continue on and see what else Tyre can. The problem here is Tyre committed itself to this attack and I had to swing the rest of the ships up to get them in range of my command. Yet, there's a decent number of ships here that are available for action, right? The problem is I can only turn once in any given attack. So I can't, like, swing this guy around. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, swing around again, 3, 4. Using 5 movement points to hit there. I have to more or less have a straight attack. And that doesn't look like it's the case in most, if any, cases. This guy might be able to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can get a hit on him. But elsewhere, it's going to be hard to get a strike against the flank of a ship. Worse, if I do send somebody up this way, I've got a command problem there. And that's a definite issue. Then I also have this squadron, which looks like it's getting outflanked here. So while I might be able to swing an attack in this way and still keep my fleet in command, there'd be a danger coming from this direction. I don't know. But my fleets have their catapults loaded on. I kind of feel like I should be moving them into place. Let's see what I can. Let's recall the restrictions because we're on the melee part, I think, of the naval phase now. We've both moved. It's simultaneous. Whatever the hell, however that's supposed to be handled. But it appears like missile fire to be intended to be simultaneous. Now, you have restrictions. You're allowed to melee shit. Things you're pinned to, i.e. that you rammed or rammed you, like in this circumstance, or things you're alongside and parallel to, like this ship and this ship are allowed to melee. Well, let's see what we can figure out of this. We have a melee strength. We have a melee table, but I don't know if that's for land combat. Over here. Now, melee is always to the attacker's advantage. So I might as well do it, right? Okay. So let's do this melee. These guys are pinned. I've got a 6 attacking a 5 and maybe a 5 attacking a 6. Alright, let me get a red die so I can do them simultaneously. You don't have to do this. Obviously, you can roll once for each, and I may do that. I'll use the red die for the Macedonians because they've got red pieces, and they're at -1 in this exchange. So I need a 5 or a 6 to do anything. I get a 2, that's no good. The Tyrians come back, they're at +1. And they get a 6, that's a DM. They have damaged the enemy ship. Yeah, DS is disrupted. Which means we've got this. Now over here, these two are the only two that are considered parallel, and they're at 0, and I'll just roll a red and a white die. Alright, nothing from the Tyrians. A 5, though, will damage the Tyrian ship here. Alright, somewhere in here, we get rid of these pin markers at some point, and I'm not quite sure when. And I think these rules are playable. I think that it was just such a headache for me back in the day. So we have a, that's for land. We have a naval regroup, but that comes later. I am guessing there's supposed to be some sort of unpinning or undisruption in here. Doesn't appear to be any changes to the order of play. At the beginning of each movement segment, the player can attempt to free his pinned units. And he gets a roll, and then he can move and attack normally. And now there's also got to be rules for removing the fatigue markers. Those last like 1 turn, as do the disruptions. But there's no clear, sequence of play time when these things get handled. So anyway, we just did the Tyrian and Macedonian movement there, and we're on the 4th phase, and I'll try to remember how to handle all this. It's a lot less well-ordered than most war games tend to be. That's the big gripe that I guess I have here. I'm a lot less able to look at a sequence of play and say, this is what I do at this point. When I look at the sequence, it doesn't tell me about the pinning and unpinning. It doesn't tell me about the exhaustion. And when they are actually handled, they're kind of handled in sort of a mini sort of way. A lot of mini systems are kind of vague in this sort of way where, yeah, there's a specific time when you're allowed to do something or not do something, but they're often not nicely spelled out in the rules and require efforts that aren't clearly supported by pieces in the game, essentially. You could use little markers and change their color as you go or whatever, but you just don't have those pieces in the game here to indicate, yeah, this turn he's tired, but next turn he won't be. There's nothing like that. Okay, now we see more of the mess, and it's not that big a deal, these exhausted markers. They come off after the movement phase, so if they're already in place, you just try to remember that. New ones are new, but the ones that are in place, you can try to move first. What we see here is the Macedonians have slipped in. They only did 1 ram, but otherwise they're just clogging and cluttering things so that they can maybe get some attacks in. Now, Tyre can turn around and try to flee from that. They have to get out of this pin situation. They have to get out of here. All this is very difficult with the movement points required. Of course, on the other hand, they can swing these guys around and maybe get some strikes in on the flank here. There's some really ugly situations with this game, which is to say, I had to basically move this unit first, and that would have left all of these out of command, and then you got to kind of figure out what the hell all your other ships are going to do. And anyway, it ended up leaving a bunch of them out of command after movement because I wanted to line up and try to save these guys. So I'm going to have a bunch of Tyrian ships that aren't able to do anything next turn. Hopefully I'll remember it. Oops. forgetting to move the turn marker each way. It's also very, very hard to line up an attack. So like these guys managed to get a ram in, but otherwise I couldn't get any other rams in. All I can do is pick one off on the flank, and that's fine, I guess. But it's not like I could link up and get other regular attacks. And it's just a very frustrating sort of system, for me at least. More frustrating than, say, Trireme is, which I really kind of like. This is also kind of abstracted, and when I looked at Constantinople's sea rolls, they're really abstracted in the sense that all the naval movement, the ships don't return to port; they just stay there. It's not simulating some sortie. It's simulating nothing in particular, just movement of naval units in some sort of way to indicate I don't know what. But that's really disappointing. At least this, it feels like there's a sortie going on, even though it doesn't really feel terribly well executed. Anyway, I'll take care of all that simultaneous melee that's taking place and come back. Okay. Well, so far the Tyrians are doing a pretty good job, although it felt like the Macedonians had the advantage in terms of positioning. The Tyrians have knocked out 2 Macedonian ships, or allied ships, completely. They've also, yes, they've taken some damage, but they also hit this leader, and there's a leader loss procedure here. The way this is done is on a 6, the leader is drowned. On a 1 through 5, the leader will show up on another ship, but he can't use his leadership rating equal for a number of rounds equal to the roll of the die. Whatever that means, and however I'm supposed to keep track of that, I guess with some kind of number counter that doesn't come with the game. Alright, so he's out for 1 turn, and he went down, I don't remember, I think over here, so I'll put him here. And try to remember he's out for 1 or something. He's really... There's only going to be 2 more turns here. But the loss of 2 ships, these are permanently gone. They're going to go in the body bag here when I get a chance. I've done all the Tyrian movement I could. I was able to move this leader back into place so I could slide some of these ships around. We have, you can see all the Macedonians are piling up to try to get their catapults in play, but you have some Tyrian ships ramming the Macedonian ships. Those are lighter Macedonian ships. There's a bonus for shooting, for trying to slam into things with catapults. I'm hoping to get rid of the catapults more than anything, but that doesn't seem to be working terribly well. Now I've got to buzz through and try to find the... I think I did these in the wrong order. I think I did the Macedonians first. Damn it. I got no idea with this shit. Anyway, now I got to do the melee. Nothing's changed. I just want to express some more disgust with this system. You know, it's really difficult to look under all these counters. Now you could say, well, how much more difficult is it than some of the other games? Yeah, they obfuscate what you're ramming with, whose piece it is. It's very hard to tell whose units are which in this. I'm finding this much harder than almost any other system. Now, I think flying colors would be this bad with counters with only small ships. The small ships are hard to see. I think a big cav game with lots and lots of stuff in it in the Great Battles of History or Musket and Pike would be really annoying with lots of these counters. With counters just on top of everything. Yes, you can put things underneath, but it's really hard to keep track, you know, and I'm having to use dice for counters and stuff like that. Yes, I could dig out more counters, but it's just, this one's really never going to please me. It's just too much of a fiddly mess. Alright, and somewhere in there, I'm able to get some catapults into play. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to fire at this hex, I want to fire at this one only. So I guess I've got 3 catapults I can fire. And I've got to figure out how to indicate catapults have fired. Well, that's easy enough. I can slip them underneath. But I'm going to be firing 3 catapults at that hex. And that's going to be here. They're all primary wall, so it's just normal. And I'm going to be doing 4 points of damage to it. In there. And that's kind of tasty. If I thought I could land troops, this would be appealing. Of course, they're going to throw some rocks down there very quickly. Next turn, repair that wall. That's just, you know, the nature of it. You've got to do damage more times than just once to expect to be able to launch the attack. That's for sure. Although, let me see. Yeah, we still go through the engineering, the construction, and wall repair, even if I choose to do an assault. So I'm not going to get an easy pass with just, oh, I got a breach, I'm in. It's not that simple. All right. I think I've done all my melees. I've got a couple more ships, one from each side gone. Some more damage. Hard to explain what's going on. It's a mess. And now I guess I'll let the Macedonians go first again. This alternating thing is just too much for my poor little... Let me point out I'm in the midst of moving the Tyrians at the end of this, but here's one of my irritations. So this ship is sitting here. I cannot ram this ship. I can't move forward and hit it because I'd have to turn one. I can't turn this way and hit it. Basically, I can't hit it even though it's in my midsection. If it was here or here, I could hit it. But where it is, I cannot because of the vagaries of the geometrics of this board. It's just... things like that really irritate me on top of, you know, all the other stuff. But this entire sequence, the naval sequence, is this chess-like geometric calculations going on that really, really gets to me. And we get a few more casualties here. This is all done. And really the turn's almost over. There's a little bit left to go, I think. But now we're at this naval regrouping segment. And during this, I get to take all the Tyrian ships and put them back in the harbors. They don't have to actually be on port hexes. And what's not clear is whether or not I can ground into these safely or what. If you force the boom, it seems to me you should be able to get access to those port hexes, but I don't know. The rules don't tell you anything about that, I don't think. Maybe in the errata. You know, 4 games errata on here. It's kind of obnoxious. But I don't seem to remember. I've written down most of the errata that was of any significance. And something like that I think I would have written. All right. So now... Oh. I can't shoot at this. It's not carrying equipment. The catapults fired again. I got one successful hit on here. So that's up to level 5. I was firing the other 2 catapults here, hoping to knock that wall down a little bit. That didn't happen. And for the Macedonian ships, they get to go back along the ports and next to them. So this all kind of breaks up, and that's fair. You know, nighttime comes or whatever, this sortie's done. I'm good with that. I'm actually more bothered by the way the Constantinople siege, special naval rules that were kind of an add-on that didn't get published with it. And probably didn't get as play tested as they should have. There was probably a decision of, no, your game's getting too big. Stop now. Because most of Siege of Constantinople is pretty good, but this was a pretty iffy set of rules, actually. All right, so what do we go to after this? Well, I think that's it, actually, because Amphibious Assault is its own thing, so we just go to Game Turn Indication. The one difference... I can actually combine ships, so damaged ships of the same type and nationality can combine. So instead of having 2 triremes that are wrecked, I can have one fully functional one. That kind of sucks, because actually the ram table gives you an advantage to having more ships. And if you look at the combat quality, This is not twice as big as one of these. So I think actually combining is a bad idea. For the Tyrians, it might not be so bad if you've got too many ships. But for the Tyrians, they certainly don't want to do it because they can repair their ships. All right, we're going to send this one up for whatever it's worth. And that puts us into turn 4. We're getting close. The Cypriots might come in now. If they don't come in soon, and you can see the Tyrians probably want it to be hacking on Alexander's navy. Actually, I think I've seen this game usually be a failure because Alexander's navy gets picked on as soon as it comes in. The early ABSs or whatever are pretty much gone by the time the RSL comes in. The RSL is destroyed in one turn, essentially. And this is if you don't have those catapults on board. So actually what we're getting is a more historical reaction here, because there's no way you can cower with your fleet. Your fleet will get picked off on the coastline if you don't do anything about it. All right, up this one goes.